Question over to the far right.
Coach, Trey Smith, College Underdogs. You just mentioned in your opening statement about being aggressive with scheduling. You're playing teams like Bama, Miami. You played Bama last year as well. Do you think it's important to continue having those matchups, even though last year the playoff committee didn't seem to put much of a value on strength of schedule when setting who that team from this group would be?
Yeah, Bama and Miami got to play South Florida.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode on the College Underdogs YouTube channel. I'm your host, Trey Smith. I am fresh off AAC Media Days. Been there all day. Just got back in to record this evening's episode. And I'm going to just give you my thoughts, my takeaways, my recaps. It was a first-class experience from a media member perspective. They got this little gift they gave us with the glass, the setup, the lighting. It was a different location than last year. It was actually across the street because I actually went to the wrong place first on the way there. But man, the setup was top notch, second to none. They had the CFP trophy there on display, which I thought was a nice touch, especially now that it's likely an American team will be in the playoffs. So let's start putting that out front and center. And of course they had, I'm sure some of you saw on social media, they had the gaming station with the new College Football 25. They opened it up to fans. So listen, guys, gals that watch this show, next year, maybe make some plans to attend this event. If they're going to open it up to fans again, it'd also be a great time for me to meet some of the people, put some faces to some names who join in the comments and join the discussions. But let's get into this. I want to just sort of do a rundown. I was able to ask some of the questions I told you on today's Tuesday, last Thursday, that I told you I was hoping to get answered. And so I'm going to start. Let's get into it. Actually, before we do, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, okay? If you're new to the channel, we bring you top-notch coverage. We are the #1 show on YouTube for Group of 5 football, the American Athletic Conference, the Mountain West Conference, and of course the others, Conference USA, Sunbelt MAC. But I know AAC and Mountain West Conference fans is probably mostly that are make up the subscribership of this channel. And if you're a fan, please hit like, please hit subscribe, turn those notifications on. And we're ramping up. It's talking season. We're ramping up, getting into the season. And I'd love it if you'd leave a comment at the end of this video and join the discussion. All right, so let's start with Commissioner Tim Pernetti. First off, I want to say this. I believe after meeting him in person, listening to him speak and hearing what he has to say, this guy's the real deal. I do believe that the AAC is in great hands with Tim Pernetti. Here's why. Okay, here's the just unbiased, objective perspective I have, the impression I got from him. 1, he knows who he is. 2, he knows what he stands for. And 3, he's not tiptoeing around it. Where I think some people are going to have to chill out as they're getting, used to the new commissioner of the conference, is understanding that when he's spitballing ideas, sort of just shooting from the hip, you can't take that as him saying, this is what we're going to do. Like, that was something that really became clear to me. I tried to say that on an episode a couple weeks ago when he referenced the revenue capping, okay, how he was just throwing that out there. He wasn't saying like, this is what we're going to do. We're planning for this. No, he's a dude, like, he knows who he is. He's a football guy, okay? He was a tight end at Rutgers back in the day, and he's passionate about that. He's passionate about this conference. He's passionate about these coaches and these student athletes. And I think that right there is going to really make him successful at making the conference successful in this new landscape. I think he was the right hire to lead the AAC in this new era of college football. He's an outside the box thinker, but also remember, okay, just because he throws something out there just from the hip doesn't mean he's like, this is what we're looking to do. So that's just kind of my initial impression of him, just from sitting in the audience, listening to him speak and hearing what he had to say. They had a sweet video that they opened the media days with. It's probably on YouTube somewhere on the AAC's channel. Go check it out. I'll put it on here if I'm allowed to, so y'all could see it. But another cool tidbit about Commissioner Pernetti was when I actually went to shake his hand, he knew who I was. So I thought that was pretty cool. He actually has watched and listened to this show on this channel. So I knew we followed each other on Twitter, but like I follow a lot of people and they follow me on Twitter who are in positions like that. So I usually don't think too much of it. But no, like he recognized me, and just a little teaser, he did talk about, like we talked about him being on this show, doing an exclusive interview. And he even invited me to the AAC headquarters because they have a studio in their headquarters where they do, this type of stuff. And so he is going to be out of town, but I've got one of my guys who I've have been in communication with for, going back to last year. His name's Chuck. Awesome dude. Handles all their communications. Basically, he was like, yeah, work it out with Chuck and let's make it happen. So that is something to look forward to here on the Underdogs channel. And he specifically told me, you're asking the right questions, referring to an episode, probably what I put out last Thursday. He said, you're asking the right questions. He said, we can have that conversation. And he did tell me there's some legal stuff, but he was like he doesn't shy away from things. And I really like that. Like he didn't tiptoe around realignment and expansion. And he tells it like it is to the capacity that he can. The question that I was able to ask him during his presser was about the Army-Navy game. I don't know if you remember from Thursday when I said that I wanted to know, okay, is it feasible to think that game could become a conference game in the future? I knew there was a lot of red tape around that game and the media arrangement that's around it, but I also know there's a timetable on that as well. And what he told me was that the Army-Navy game is managed by a separate entity, and it has been for a while because of its national and international appeal. But he did say, when the time comes at the right time, his exact words were, I will do my job and make a compelling case. In other words, when the time comes and the time is right, I'm going to do what I need to do to get this game a conference game. Because I had asked, hey, is there a way we could potentially foresee Army-Navy becoming an AAC game while still protecting the tradition that surrounds that game? And that's what he said, his bottom line. So I'm hoping maybe we can dive into that a little bit more when we end up having a more one-on-one interview. But those were my takeaways from Commissioner Tim Pernetti. And I do. I think if you're an AAC fan, you should be excited about this guy, because I do think that he's going to rule everything in before he rules anything out. He's going to think outside the box, and he's going to find the most creative, effective, efficient ways to keep the conference competitive in these sort of uncharted times, uncharted territories. Someone also asked him about Oregon State and Washington State. They just point blank asked him, Commissioner Oresco said that those conversations have ceased, that they're no longer in discussions. And the person asked Commissioner Pernetti, hey, is that still the case? And his exact words were, at this point, everybody is still talking to everybody. So maybe we'll have to dive into that as well. All right, moving on. So let's talk about this Golesh quote that's going viral right now, where he said, Bama and Miami have to play South Florida. I was just counting how many news outlets are writing articles about that quote, and they're giving the credit to the wrong guy for asking the question. Everybody's giving the credit to the dude who writes for the Tampa Bay Times. I was the one Coach Golesh was responding to when he said that, because I was the one that asked him the same question I asked Coach Trent Dilfer, which was, given how the CFP committee a season ago did not put any value on strength of schedule, hence Liberty getting the bid, are you still advocating? Are you still an advocate for aggressive scheduling, playing top-notch competition, even though it could come back to haunt you for that playoff spot, like it did SMU a season ago. And both Dilfer and Golesh were like, yes, we want to play the top-notch competition. If you're trying to shy away from that, why are you even in this? And Coach Dilfer, his quote isn't getting, I don't know if anyone's put it out there. Maybe I need to put this out on Twitter because it's not getting much traction. But he did say, look, I'm not trying to get a soundbite, a viral soundbite here. I don't think he used the word viral, but he said, I'm not trying to get a soundbite here. But his exact words were, hold on, I got it here in my notes. He said he really disagrees with last year's decision. And what he was referring to, even though he didn't call them by name, was the committee's decision to put Liberty in. That's what he was referencing when he said that. So if you go back and watch his interview, I asked him almost the same question that I asked Golesh, which was about the scheduling of the competitive scheduling. And both of them were very much on board and for. Now, also keep in mind, as head coaches, they're not the ones that are like setting the schedule, especially as guys entering their second year in. I mean, the schedule they're going to play this year was probably set years before they even took over. But both of them were very adamant that it was necessary to continue playing that top-notch level of competition. And that if you're wanting to shy away from that, like, what are you even doing? So hopefully the committee will put more of an emphasis on that this upcoming season. But I also want to throw that out there because I saw the On3 tweet, and then I Googled Alex Golesh, and like every article from Alabama to Florida to sports outlets are all picking up his quote. And some of them are saying that he said to such and such from the Tampa Bay Times. No, he didn't. He said that to Trey Smith from College Underdogs. Put some respect on my name. Just kidding. Anyways, all right. Let me keep this thing moving. So, Coach Herman. Coach Herman, the thing that stuck out to me, what he says, he actually feels like their offense is going to be more talented than it was last year, despite losing a lot of players to the portal. But he seemed to feel very confident with the players they brought in. Army, Coach Jeff Monken, I asked him about the potential rivalry with UTSA. He loves he was very... He was like a master class in coach speak. He was very uplifting of UTSA. He was very humble, but he definitely likes being in a conference that has a strong presence in Texas because that's one of their big recruiting grounds there at Army. Texas, if you don't know, has quite a bit of Army bases, including a pretty significant one out in San Antonio. John Sumrall at Tulane, I think the biggest thing he put out there was that it was a two-horse race right now for the quarterback battle, and his words were between Kai and Ty, right? Kai and Ty. He said it's a two-man race between Kai and Ty. I had asked him about the quarterback. No, actually, I did not. Somebody else did. I asked him about his staff, so I'm sorry. I don't want to do what the other people are doing, not give credit. I don't remember who it was, but he was asked by somebody else about the quarterback race, and he said a two-man race between Kai and Ty for QB. Coach Silverfield at Memphis, he seems very, like this dude knows what the expectation is. And he didn't shy away from talking about it. He knows there's an expectation for his team to win this conference. And if his team were to win the conference, they got a chance at being in the playoff. I think he knows what he's got. I think he knows what the stakes are. And Memphis is loaded, boy. We'll just see if they can pull it all together. Coach Mike Bloomgren from Rice, talked to him. I asked him about the continuity. He's been there, I think, 7 years. His whole staff's been there. They only lost 3 kids to the portal. And I just kind of asked him what he thought what made them unique. And he talked about that as a leader of that organization, he really tries to put coaches and players in a position to be successful and then to remove the obstacles from that are in their way. Also, he spoke very highly of E.J. Warner. E.J. Warner is a 2-time 3,000-yard passer, led the conference in passing a season ago at Temple. Now he's at Rice. I'm ready to see E.J. Warner in this Rice system because I think it's better suited to his skill set, and I think he will be protected way better than he was a season ago at Temple. That was where Temple struggled. Coach Stan Drayton talked about that even, that they had to address the trenches because it was not good. Mike Houston, ECU, Coach Mike Houston, excuse me. I asked him about his QB room. I said, has anyone separated from the pack? And, he gave a typical answer. He just said it's a really good competition right now with Coach John David Baker in there running the offense, the assistant from Ole Miss, the new offensive coordinator. He said he really was pleased with the spring game, that both the Michigan State transfer and the Missouri transfer did exactly what they were hoping they would do. So they're making the quarterback competition interesting, but he did not show his hand at all on what direction it might be leaning. The one newsworthy quote that he said was that he said, I think you could see the same kind of turnaround this year from our program as you saw from his. And by his, he was referring to Coach Willie Fritz's 2022 Tulane team. Because Coach Fritz last year, after Tulane beat ECU, he said that the ECU team reminded him of the 2021 Tulane team, who was just snake bitten. Like their record was not a reflection of how good their team was. And so who knows, man? They get this offense firing away. I mean, the ECU defense is going to be locked in. I think we all know that. And as they were last year, you got to get something going offensively. And I think it would really do them best to identify a starter for one of those quarterbacks to run away with the team, become the established team leader, and then to be the guy going into the season. Coach Traylor, I thought this was interesting. He talked about the NIL and one of his players. He said, I saw the contract go from $300,000 at noon to $500,000 by 5 o'clock to near $675,000 by the end of the day. And that particular player chose to stay at UTSA. So, man, he even said he kind of made a joke because he was not wearing his hat. And if you know anything about Coach Traylor, he's usually wearing his hat when he's in these interviews. And I don't know, I'm sure you saw the viral clip from him at the THSCA, the coaching convention, where he kind of went on a little bit of a tirade, and it's kind of going viral. I think even Barstool Sports may have picked it up. So he said, I did not wear my hat today to remind myself not to end up on Barstool Sports. And so what he had said is, if I was wearing my hat right now, I'd tell you who the school was that did it, referring to that contract, that NIL contract. Also, as you all know, if you know anything about Coach Traylor, he really, really is an advocate for Friday night lights in Texas. That's high school football in Texas. And he did say that in the state of Texas, Friday nights are for Texas high school football. Because that's what I asked him about. They only have 2 Friday night games, and they're towards the end of the season. But he said, he's thankful. He did acknowledge that he's thankful that, those are the nationally broadcasted games, and there's a lot of eyeballs on those games. But he still wishes that they were being played on Saturday. Coach Eric Morris, UNT, 73 new football players on the UNT roster. That's mind-blowing to me. That's crazy. I get it when it's your first year and you're overturning your roster, but when it's your second year, 73 new players is wild. Did talk very highly of Chandler Morris, his quarterback, the TCU transfer. Man, I think North Texas is giving me dark horse vibes if they can stay healthy. And if a couple more playmakers can rise to the surface. I think ECU and North Texas both are giving me dark horse vibes. And yeah, man, I mean, that about does it. I got to talk with Coach Newberry from Navy. I love that dude, man. If you remember last year, I said the same thing. I got to talk to him offline last year, talked to him again this year. He remembered me, which I thought was kind of cool. And just him talking about the difference heading into year 2 as what it was a season ago. You got to think last year they had already started, or they were getting ready to start practice. They had a week 0 matchup in Dublin against Notre Dame. It was kind of like just being baptized by fire. But then you saw the fight and the grit in that Navy team as they just never would go away throughout the season. They ended up having 3 shutouts. And Coach Newberry even told me offline, not during the press conference, but when we were just talking, he was like, yeah, dude, he's like, we just couldn't find our identity offensively. He's like, we had 3 or 4 different quarterbacks playing. He said, it is night and day going into year 2 than what it was going into year 1. And just talked about how much he had learned. And I don't know, man, like those Army Navy, you just never know. They're just you just don't want to have to play either of them, especially if you're riding high. Like if you're 7-1, 8-0, like you just don't want to play Navy or Army. They'll just get you. And Navy had a streak there where they were winning 11 games a season, I think back to back. So we'll see what old Coach Newberry can put together heading into year 2. But yeah, that's my rundown from today. Thank you all for watching. If there's any other stuff you were hoping to hear coming out of Media Days, leave it in the comments and I'll see if I got anything for you. Those were just my top highlights. Of course, there was so much more. I've got a lot of other notes. And if there's anything else you'd like to hear or know from the event, please let me know. I will be sure to respond and get back to you. And that's it for me today. Trey Smith, College Underdogs.